Hello and welcome to the Destination Newry TV preview show of the 2020 Down Senior Football Championship, sponsored by Morgan Fuels, and the 2020 Intermediate and Junior Football Championships, sponsored by Parador Lodge. My name is Jarlath Tinley, and I am once again joined by Paula McGee and Paul Rooney. And in addition, joining the team tonight to give us his views and predictions is Down Supporters Club stalwart and highly respected match commentator Patsy Russell. Hello, everybody.
Evening, Jarlath.
Paula. Hey, Paul. Paul, you must be on mute. I can't hear you, Paul, and we've lost Patsy. Anyway, Paula, we'll bring Patsy in whenever he's available. Paula, a championship, normally all clubs are 8 to 10 games into the league programme before there's a ball through in for a championship, and they've about 6 months training behind them. So it's fair to say that the only thing that hasn't changed this year is the format of the championship, but everything else around it has changed, and changed utterly, Paula.
It has, Jarlath. Massive changes to everyone's lives this year, not only within GAA, but I think at this stage clubs are just relieved to have got to the start of championship. They're glad to be back out and have a couple of league games played, back training and seeing each other on a regular basis. So as it won't be the preparation that they're normally used to by any way, I think they will be glad that the championship is starting, and hopefully it'll go on week by week. We will continue to see the games being played in the 2020 championship, albeit a different way, but it will be good to get to the start of that this weekend.
Definitely. Paul, are you back with us?
Hello, can you hear me now, Jarlath? Yeah.
I can hear you now, Paul. Yeah. Listen, we're just saying that. Yes,
right,
yes.
Good, yeah.
We're just saying to Paula there, the only thing that has remained a constant is the format of the championship as in previous years, but everything else has changed fundamentally.
Everything else changes, right, Jarlath? And this year, all the things have changed as well, because normally they have a whole league programme behind them before they face this championship. This year, they've all, as we know, Jarlath, we covered them, there's only 3 rounds of a league under their belt, and they go straight into the championship. It's different for the footballers as well, a bit, Jarlath, you know what I mean? On comparison to every other year. Just a couple of wee things, Jarlath, before there's a hurling going on at the minute. There's a Down Senior Hurling Championship round 1 going on, and at the water break in the 2 of them in the second half, Jarlath, as we farther on, Portaferry's leading Breed at 3-16-9. And then in the other one, Ballycrown is leading Ballygalget. No, Ballygalget 1-8, Ballycrown 12 points, Jarlath, in that other one. And that's at the water break in the second half of both of them hurling games.
Well, Paul, I'll have to give way to you on continuous coverage of the hurling, because
well, this is actually our first championship action tonight, Jarlath, and it's going on in the hurling. So that's at the water break in the 2 games. I'll run them past everybody again in case they missed them. In the Senior Hurling Championship at the water break, it's Portaferry 3-16, Breda 9 points. And in the other championship match, it's Ballycrown 12 points, Ballygalget 1-8 at the water break, 16 minutes, 20 minutes into the second half, Jarlath, and both of them. I don't know what has happened, Patsy. We seem to have lost Jarlath, but
no, we've maybe lost the signal. Well, listen, can I just let everybody know that at the end of the show tonight, I was delighted today to be able to secure the county chairman for chit chat and a bit of an interview where we touched on 4 or 5 different issues pertaining to football throughout the county and the whole COVID mitigation, so on and so forth. And we also touched on issues in relation to the county team and what's going to happen later in the year. We also touched briefly on the Ballykinler project. So that interview, folks, is 23 or 24 minutes long. So we're just going to play out the show with it later on this evening, and you're welcome to stay on and watch that. It was good to get Jack. He had some interesting things to say, and he's always a very, very calm figure, even in the stormiest waters. So What'll we do? Will we wait for Patsy, or will we push on and get straight into it?
I'm sure if somebody can rattle out the fixtures, Jarlath will
Right.
carry on.
Well, that's
you know
what
what I
we'll
mean?
do, Paul. Well, I tell you what we'll do then. We'll start with the Senior Football Championship. Paula, have you the fixtures in front of you?
I have, Jarlath.
Right. Sure. We might as well go. We'll take it in chronological order. Right. There's obviously a couple of big games on this weekend, but Championship starts tomorrow night, and first game up is Ballyholland, Darragh. Paula, any views on that yourself?
Yeah, that game's in Kilcoo at 7:30. Ballyholland Darragh. You'd be expecting Ballyholland to want a good run in the championship, so I would say Ballyholland would be looking to secure a win in Kilcoo tomorrow evening, Jarlath.
All right, Paul. Any views on that, Paul? Ballyholland game.
Ballyholland, Darragh, yeah. I would agree with Paul on you'd be expecting Ballyholland to win it. I remember last year Darragh got the semi-final at the meeting and Newcastle, and they were expected to beat Shamrocks in that one, and they come up short at the end of it, Jarlath. You know what I mean? So I definitely would be thinking Ballyholland. We've touched on Ballyholland this last few weeks, Jarlath. A couple of great up-and-coming players. We actually introduced a young Mortar fella onto the team a couple of weeks ago. Remember, he came on and scored his first goal for them. They've young Lochran there, and have Darragh Cross name a few weeks ago, and it seemed to be Marcus Miskelly was doing all the scoring, and Marcus Miskelly's been about a long time, Jarlath. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They have few bits of young blood coming, but I would reckon Ballyholland would be too strong for them, Jarlath. In that one, to be honest with you.
Paul, can I just jump in there? Patsy, want to welcome you back. We're just on the first game, Patsy, and we're taking it in chronological order.
Technical problem on this end.
So,
yeah, that our cross you're speaking about, is it?
Yeah. There's a few technical issues.
You have to
there.
fancy Ballyholland there. This is our cross's first time appearing in senior championship.
All right, Patsy, listen, that's a dodgy enough signal there. Well, listen, we'll let that one go then. So everybody's going with Ballyholland on that one, right? We'll move on then until Friday night. Restrava versus Patrick. It's in Castlewellan. It's a standalone game. Paul, what's your view on that? Paul, we've lost.
They're going to win it. You know what I mean?
Go ahead, Paul. We've lost you there.
I think Cal had me muted there. He's trying to sort out Patsy in the background, Jarlath. But I was saying to you, that game there, there'd be nobody coming to that confidence that they're going to walk out with a win. It'd be fair. I'd say it'd be a fair out game, Jarlath. And you're a Redrawn man yourself. There's plenty of young stuff coming about the place, and like it might be a year or two yet before it's actually fit for a full slaughter on the senior championship. But like they have players coming into place, Jarlath. You're very young, as we know. We mentioned a few of them on the show already. Like, if you wanted to nail me to the wall and say Redrawn down Patrick, I'll be going for RGU, Jarlath. I'm not saying that to annoy you in any way, but I think they have a wee bit more experience, in the panel, and they'll fall in that in the championship, Jarlath, you know.
Well, Paul, that's a big statement to make. You're taking a Division 2 team over Division 1, and I know Redrawn hasn't exactly had a positive start to the season, but sometimes you just need that we run a look for things to for your direction and your fortunes to change. So, Paula, have you a wee view on that one just before we move on?
Yeah, well, Charles, I seen Redrawn against I think it was Burn in the championship last year, and I think there's players that have been there, albeit as new blood come through, but there's players there in the last number of years, and you've likes of Conor Doyle and James Rice. Them fellas will be wanting to make a statement. You know, they're coming well in their careers, and I would say they'll be looking to push on. Hadn't maybe the league started that I would have wished for, but I would actually be going for Redrawn on this one, Charles.
Well, Paula, you're definitely not going to fall out, because I agree with you on that one there. Paul, can I let you know that somebody's mic, Paul, and I think it's yours, is making an awful noise, an awful rattle, and it's coming across loud and clear, unfortunately. So if anybody has a dodgy mic there, can try and do something with it. Anyway, Paula, you're going for a Strava then. Moving on, Friday night in Newry, Mayo Bridge will take on Kilcoo. And of course, Paula, before we get into the game itself, I believe that game is televised.
Yes, that is going out live on TG Cahir. And certainly, you're looking at the All-Ireland Finest Club Champions last year, Kilcoo taking on Mayo Bridge. Of course, Mayo Bridge certainly will be wanting to have a run again in Kilcoo, and we'll certainly be fancying they can move on. But I would have to say that the majority of the people will be looking at Kilcoo to come out of that one. Personally, I hope they're wrong, but I think Kilcoo is the favourite in there.
You see, it's a strange one in the sense that there's a game on Friday night in Newry, second half, undoubtedly under the lights, Mayo Bridge Kilcoo. Paul, that normally would have been a bumper crowd. Obviously, we're restricted this year because of everything that's going on. It's only going to be down to a couple of hundred. So, Paul, what way do you see that game going?
Yeah, man, you can hear me all right, Jarlath. I don't know what that microphone problem is. I don't think it's mine, maybe. But you can hear me all right, yeah?
Yeah.
Mayo Bridge and Kilcoo, yeah. I'm hoping to go to that one, Jarlath. It's on TG where I'm going to run that one. Like, I remember I was just looking through out stuff today, and I remember looking back at the time Kilcoo made the breakthrough. I remember that night, and Paula might remember this as well, the wet night in Hilltown. There was photographs that night that made all over Ireland. There was that much water on the pitch. But that's Kilcoo's big breakthrough. That's a long time ago. I think that was maybe 2000 around that, 2010 around that time when they made that breakthrough. And like they've been constantly there ever since. It's been born in Kilcoo winners this last 15 years, I think. You know what I mean? Before it was Mayo Bridge for 4 or 5 years. I tell you what, they've young talent in the club. They've young talent coming back. Mayo Bridge, yes, they're my own club. Love to see them doing it, you know what I mean? But I think Mayo Bridge might be a year or two away yet. They're very, very, very young. And like they have some great promise in it, but Kilcoo still have something about that there yet. I think they could be an good running this year again, Jarlath. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. I'll hold the tip on that one, Jarlath, towards the end of the programme. I'm not going to.
Oh, no, Paul. No, I can't.
No. Maybe Paula will.
I'm not letting you away with that one.
But anyhow,
it's very clear to me there you've went with Kilcoo, right? Are you rolling back?
I'm not going with Kilcoo. I'm going to straighten myself up, and I'm going to hopefully the young blood in Mayo Bridge make the breakthrough and stop this Kilcoo juggernaut somewhere along the line.
Okay. Paula, before we move on till the next game, can you just remind us actually what's happening in relation to the COVID mitigation? How many's going to be at the games? Where the tickets can be bought? Can neuters go to games? And just remind us, in addition to Mayo Bridge and Kilcoo, what else is being televised?
Yeah, well, in relation to tickets, there'll be the panel. Obviously, there'll be a set amount of tickets go to the panel, and that also is all restricted because the panels are restricted. I think it's to 24, and your management team where games are being streamed or live TV. The clubs do not bring in their own people to video games, and so the tickets for the clubs, I think it's 150. They go directly to the clubs, and then it's the clubs up to them what way they distribute, and some of them are putting them up on just sale, someone just to their members. So them big games, there's no ticket sales. If you haven't got a ticket before you come to the game, you won't be able to get in. So tickets must be bought. There's a ticket app. The details of that is all out on our social media. So tickets must be bought beforehand. The other games, the TG Cahir games, we spoke about Jarlath on Mayo Bridge and Kilcoo, and the other games being streamed live are the Glen Bransford game on Sunday at 3 o'clock in Park Esther, and then the Common Father Nifa v Burn at 7:30, also in Park Esther on Sunday, and then on Monday evening we have Carryduff v Clonduff and at 7:45, also from Park Esther. And then games has all been streamed by Park TV, and the details again are all up on social media. And these first round of games are being streamed free. So people will be able to log on and watch the games free, and then from round 2 and round 3 there will be a charge. But for this week and for the start of the championship, we're putting them out free, and hopefully it'll allow people that, obviously the restrictions and numbers and tickets and that, a lot of people, neutrals as you talked about, would want to see these games, Jarlath. So at least they'll be able to see TG4 Friday night and then the rest streamed throughout the game. So hopefully that'll keep them in touch as well.
Okay, Paula, thanks for that. Patsy, you're back with us.
Thanks very much, Jarlath.
Right, Patsy, listen, I'm going to spend a minute or two with yourself because I don't want to leave you behind here. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I want you to tell me Mayo Bridge, Kilcoo and Rostrevor Downpatrick. I want your view on the two of them before anybody else cuts in.
Right, for Rostrevor Downpatrick, first of all, I heard you talking about it there. It's going to be a very close affair. But Pete at the helm or Rostrevor just might get them over the line, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised by a Downpatrick victory. Regarding Kilcoo and Mayo Bridge, you have touched on it there. Kilcoo runners up in the All Ireland. They could have won that All Ireland with a bit more luck, Jarlath, especially in that for when they put Corif into the pin of their collar. But Mayo Bridge have a good young side. They have the likes of Corey Quinn, they have Conlath O'Hare, Kevin O'Rourke, experienced players. They have young Charlie O'Hare in the middle of the field. So they'll give Kilcoo a good run for their money, but you would have to use on that occasion.
Okay, thanks, Patsy. All right, everybody's back in now, so we're moving on to Saturday. At Dara Cross, Castlewellan are taking on Breda. It hasn't been a good start to the season, folks, for Castlewellan. Paul, you want to take the lead on that one?
Yeah, it hasn't been a great start for them, is right, Jarlath. And I was looking there, the way you'd be doing a wee bit of homework and research on the show. It's not that long ago from they were in the final, Jarlath. Do you know what I mean? Like a county final, they were in a county final in 2015, so they were. And it wasn't that big a surprise. They were going well at the time, but I don't know what's going on. It's a town thing again. I don't know whether it's a town thing or what it is, Jarlath, but I'll tell you what, it'd be hard enough to deal with, that sort of way. And in respect to that one, Jarlath, they'd be hoping to get their get their stuff together for the championship. The 3 league games hasn't been great. So on that one, Jarlath, again, I'm sort of in between. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure on that one again. Maybe Patsy or Paula would have been better. Would have better inroads on that one than me.
Hold on, Paul. Really, you must have splinters.
There we go again now.
You must have splinters, right? You're going to have to get off that fence, boy. You know what I mean? You can't. This is not the way this show works here. Your neck's on the block. Call it. Castlewellan or Breda.
I'm going to call it, and we're going to call Breda. There you are. I'm going to call Breda. I also looked at them. I looked at them today, right? And they have, over the last 10 years, have been in juniors, intermediates, been 3 or 4 finals at different levels. Now they're all to the senior grade now, and we know there have a couple of county players there, Jarlath. We know them. We mentioned them on the show. I'm going to tip Breda in that one. Yes, I'm going for Breda in that one.
Right,
I'm not taking it down anywhere, Jarlath. No.
Patsy, I'm going to you next on that one. Castlewellan, Breda.
Well, Castlewellan have a great man at the helm, and Frank Dawson, a man who has won championships with Clonduff in 2000 and Bourne in 2010 and 2011. So he definitely has the pedigree. As you say, Saul beating Castlewellan there in a league game was something of a bit of surprise. But I think I'm going to have to go with Paul here. I fancy Breda to sneak that one, maybe by a point or 2.
Oh, very good. Paula, what about yourself?
Yeah, we're talking about Castlewellan there, Jarlath. One of the clubs that probably did have a rocky start due to COVID and things like that, and it's maybe taking them a wee bit longer to settle in the game. So on this occasion, I'm going to go with Castlewellan on this one.
Well, to give it a wee bit of interest, I'll go with Castlewellan as well. So that's two. Two have gone for each team. Right, the next game on Saturday in Downpatrick is Longstone versus Logan Island. It's Benny Coulter versus Jody Gormley. Patsy, what do you think of this?
Well, I was involved for Loughnane for many years, as you know, Jarlath. They have a good young side, and as you say, Benny Coulter at the helm there with Longstone. This is Longstone's 75th year, and I'm sure you've seen up on social media there. They've had a whole lot of interviews with different players and that, talking about their 75-year history. As you know, Paula and Paul tell you in 2007, you know, the first game in the championship final, they could have beat the Bridge that day. They ended up all square. And then the second game, Benny Coulter came on in the second half and they ended up losing by 2 points. So you wouldn't just rule Longstone out, but I'll have to go with Loughnane on this one, maybe by a couple of points, Jarlath.
Okay, Patsy. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, interesting game, Patsy. And I tell you, Loughnane, yeah, they're flying at the minute, like, and Longstone with Benny at the helm, we've touched on them this last 3 weeks. They think they're unbeaten, aren't they? Yeah, I think Longstone's unbeaten. Like Benny and you have the Dorns there, and like we said about Connor Poe, and we touched on him, and a few weeks ago, Jarlath, he was scoring for fun. I think he got 10 points in the game and a couple of goals. Like Loughnane, they are flying. Like I think we might be able to get a Longstone man on the phone at some stage tonight. Maybe to have a wee word with him on that one. But on that game, if you're nailing me to the wall, I'd have to go with Patsy. I'd have to go with Loughnane. I think they're just a bit down the road. A bit more talent about them, you know what I mean? I'm going with Loughnane on that one, George.
Okay, so yourself and Patsy are going for the Division 1 team there. Paula, what way are you on that Longstone Loughnane game?
Well, I'm going to remain as it would have been, Jarlath, if you had been asked me first. I'm going to go with Longstone because I think, like I said, Rostrava, I think there's a lot of players there that have been thereabouts. The fresh start and having Benny in with him this year, and he'll certainly be wanting to prove things from his end as well. So I think Longstone's going to be. I think it's going to be very tight, but I'm going to go with Longstone on this one, Jarlath.
Okay, and I'm going to join you, Paula, on that Longstone prediction. Moving on to Sunday, we're back into Newry, Patsy. It's one of the games that is being televised. Is that the one you were commentating on, the Glen Bransford one?
That's correct. I'm looking forward to that in Jarlath, as I say, down GA in conjunction with Park TV, and a lot of viewers who maybe will be overseas will be able to see it. And as you said earlier there, as Paula said, there's only, 300 people allowed to be at this game. So it's a chance for all viewers to get into the championship flavour, and it's going to be a very close call. As I say, we have Brainsford with Stephen Poacher has taken over the management. I think he's assisted by Kieran Brannigan there. And then you have Tony Bagnall, Brenton Grant, and Liam Bagnall on the Glen management. Glen winning that intermediate championship year will take them on leaps and bounds. And of course, they have Niall McParland and Shea McCartan back. Shea was out of his contract there with Bradford, so he's home playing. And as I say, Niall was teaching, I think, out in guitar. So that'll be a big boost to Glen. So it's going to be very close there. And I wouldn't rule out extra time in that one, Jarlath. It's not a case of maybe sitting on the fence, but I fancy this to go to extra time.
Well, Patsy, we're going to give you a bay ball on that one because you are commentating, and I don't want you falling out with anybody before the ball's through in. But there is no doubt about it. Glen have had an exceptional start to the season. Paula, what way do you see this one going?
Jarlath, I'm hoping, Patsy said there, he thinks I'm hoping it doesn't go to extra time, do you know what I mean? Because we have to carry the camera around and try and stream it, you know, that sort of way. But in relation to the game, I tell you what, you'd be expecting Bransford to be a wee bit more long in the tooth, and Poacher will have them in good shape, you know what I mean? Like, as Patsy said, Brenton Grant and Bagnall out there in Glen, they're great men too, and they've taken this Glen team through that intermediate championship last year, winning it. And they've seemed to have taken on with the left off. They have Niall back. They have young McCartan back. He's on fire. I don't know if they could keep him. If they could keep him about, they'd be staying in this type of championship, you know, for the near future. But if you want me to call that one, Patsy, I would be going, or Jarlath, I'd be going with Bransford in that one.
Okay.
Just because they have a wee bit more experience senior championship.
Right. Listen, everybody, we're going to back up the horses here for a few minutes because I must give my apologies. Emmett Hawking, I believe, is on the phone, and we've kept Emmett waiting, and we bypassed the Longstone Loughnane game before we get Emmett on. So, Emmett, are you there? Hello, Emmett.
Oh, Jarlath.
Well, how are you, Emmett?
Hello. I'm not so bad. And yourself?
I'm 100%. Well, just let me I get the bad news out of the way first, right? Patsy,
Right, go ahead.
Patsy Russell and Paul Rooney are tipping Loughlin Island to beat Longstone.
Well, they would be the favourites, obviously. You know, the Division 1 team. But I would have a few thoughts on that.
Well, we would like to hear your thoughts on that, Emmett.
Well, I would say if you go back through the history in the last few years, there hasn't been much in it between both teams. And we seem to get the better of them on the playoff, on the big games. But in the league last year now, we were 5 points up on them in Loughlin Island, and they beat us. But on this occasion now, we have new management. We have Benny at the helm, and we have a number of young players coming on. We have the old stagers, Ambrose still to the fore, Mark Poland. We have the present Connor Poland playing fairly well. I would fancy our chances on the day.
Okay, well, listen, you've had a good start to the season in the league. There's no doubt about that, Emma. And I ain't going to let Paul, Patsy, or Paula, or anybody wants to ask you anything else. Walk away, folks.
Well, how you doing, Emma? Thanks for coming on. Paul here. Jarlath sunk me in there by saying that I've tipped Longstone, but I just want to mention to you about another wee thing, another thing altogether, Emma, I want to talk about. A photograph appeared of you during the lockdown on the top of a digger, looking out over a wall where you couldn't get into the game. I think the photograph went viral all over Ireland, so it did, Emma. I wonder, is that JCB or that digger available for this round of the championship, or have you? Is she off hire, Emma, or what's the crack?
Oh, well, I don't tell you the source, but at the same time, it was a unique thing to be when Longstone players were warming up. All of a sudden, God appeared out of the sky.
Did he? All right. So she's off hire then at the minute, Emma, is she? Yeah, the digger's off hire for the next round. Yeah.
Well, no, she's back on site.
Is she? Yeah,
but,
that's good.
Well, here we'll not. Please God, we won't need it for the rest of the year or forever. Hoping this pandemic goes away as quick as possible.
Well, Emmett,
maybe Paul or Patsy wants a word with Emmett.
We can all agree on that, Emmett. Go ahead, Paula.
Yeah, hello, Emmett.
Hello, Paula.
A great photograph indeed. But as Jarlath was telling you, who Paul and Patsy was going, actually himself and myself were going with Longstone. So I'm sure that should please both you and a few around the club. But we do believe, Emmett, that there is new blood coming there, and I feel that there's players there that really wanted to prove themselves and show the rest of the county what they have. So Longstone's who I'm going with, Emmett, at the weekend.
Okay. Thanks for that,
thank
Paula.
You very much.
Listen, Patsy, do you want a quick word with Emmett? No, we have a slight delay there on Patsy's line, and it's turned into a big delay, Emmett. So, listen, we're going to wrap up with that, Emmett. We'll let you go. Stay safe, take care, and we'll see you soon.
Please, God.
All right, bye-bye. Bye. Listen, we touched on Bryansford Glen. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Patsy again there, but Warren Point CPN, Paula versus Bourne on Newry is another big game. It's also another one that has been streamed. Now, Warren Point run Kilcoo to the pin of their collar last year, and they will hold no fear against Bourne.
No, absolutely not, Jarlath. Warren Point and probably a disappointing league start to the league for them, that more than they probably would have wished they had a better start in that. But the championship's different for CPN. They seem to rise to a different level, and when they get into Park Esther, I feel that they're very familiar playing on. They feel no fear for Burn, but Burn having a great league campaign to date certainly will either have fear for CPN coming. So That's going to be a very, very tight one. I think we're going with Burn slightly to edge CPN in this one, Jarlath.
Okay. Of course, Alan Davison's back. It gives Warrenpoint a few more pieces of heavy artillery up front. Paul, what's your view on that game?
Yeah, big game, Charles. I'm looking forward to it, and we're on camera again in that one. And as you see it, CPN run Kilcoo to the pep there of the short last year, and they were very unlucky in the final not to pep them at the end. A couple of glorious chances, Patsy commentated on them. Like, they would have to feel very hard done by. And there's an old saying, Charles, that you have to learn to lose before you learn to win. You know what I mean? They've lost a final. And like, they haven't lost any players. I know young McAleenan, I think he took a step back from the county panel to concentrate more. And like, they have some good players about that place. And I tell you what, Bourne, I'd agree with Paula too. They're very strong at the minute. They've great young stuff coming through. You know, they've great young players, and they seem to be adding to their squad. And like, they'll be in the dust up before the end of it. But if you're asking me for a tip on that one, Jarlath, I'm going to go for CPN on that one, just because they were finalists last year, and hopefully they can push on from that. And I'm going to go for CPN on that one, so I am.
Well, listen, one of the things that Patsy talked about earlier on before we came in air, we were just having a chat, and Patsy had suggested that this could be the year when you know, teams catch others on the hop, you know. And Patsy, you're back with us. Maybe you want to expand on that point. We're talking about CPN and Bourne here.
Yeah, I was listening to Paul there. They've got a lot of that good minor team they had 4 or 5 years ago. The two McAvoy's, Arden and Malachi, the Donny McGill, the Liam Kerr, and then you have the experience of Kevin McKern and Colin McGovern. But as Paul said there, Warrenpoint let Kilcoo off the hook last year. You know, that they had 4 golden chances, Jarlath, and they had to took one of them. They were actually leading with 10 minutes to go, 10-9, and then Kilcoo got that goal, and it just knocked them back on their feet. But they had chances to win it, so them and Bourne's going to be very close. But I'm going to have to edge with Bourne here by an hour victory, Jarlath. But having said that, Warrenpoint could still come through the backdoor system.
Well, I'll tell you this here. I just because everybody else has went with Bourne on that one, I'm going to go with CPN.
I didn't go with Bourne, Jarlath.
Oh, now, Paul, come on. You can't.
No, I didn't go with Bourne.
Well, have you?
I went with CPN, Jarlath.
Well, my apologies.
Definitely, no, I went with CPN.
Well, see, I'm trying to multitask here, and our brain isn't as sharp after 6 o'clock. No. Right. Well, then that's 2 and 2. Okay. Right. Moving on. Monday night, it's another game of stream, Paula. It's Carryduff versus Clonduff. Clonduff, of course, have had a 100% record start to their league campaign. Carryduff have played 2, won 1 and lost 1. How do you see this going in Newry on Monday night?
I think this is going to be one of the tightest games, Jarlath. I think 2 very evenly matched teams. And yes, Clonduff got off to a glorious start, and that victory over Kilcoo will give them great confidence. Carryduff, up-and-coming team, some great players coming through in the county there as well, and they'll certainly be wanting to make their mark in championship football. But this occasion, I'm going to go with Clonduff just because of the wee bit of extra experience and the start that have got to the league, Jarlath.
Okay. Paul, go ahead. What's your view on that one?
Yeah, I would have to lean towards Clonduff again. I have a couple of nephews playing for Clonduff, so that being the reason maybe for that. But even also, regardless of that, Jarlath, I think they're a wee bit just further on. Like, they have the 2 O'Hagans and they've a couple of Kiars, and they've all sorts of decent players coming through there. We've carried off a couple of Carryduff boys in the down pond as well now, as we know. They've been brilliant through the underage levels right to this stage, Jarlath. We're always hoping that whenever a team does show they're capable, you know, at underage, like, you take any underage down to Carryduff, any underage team down to Carryduff, and you'll have trouble, right? But it's getting through to the senior grade. We mentioned on the show a few times, and you'd love to see Carryduff put it up to Clonduff there on that one, but I'd have to fancy Clonduff to tip that one at the end. But I think Carryduff will put it right to the wire to them, Jarlath, to be honest with you.
Okay. Patsy, carried off, Clonduff. Just wrap us up there for the first round of the senior games.
Well, Jarlath, if you remember last year, I was at the game. I'm sure maybe Paul and Paula Patrick's Park. Carried off, played Clonduff. Carried off, got off to a blister start. There were 2-5 to 3 points up, and they had a chance for another goal. But they ended up losing to Clonduff that day, 15 points to 2-7. A good friend of mine's actually managed them, DJ Morgan. He used to play his football with the Connacht. And as I say, they won 2 under-21 back-to-back down championships. So they're in with a shout, and as Paula said, they have a good array of players now on the down panel. The 2 Guinnesses, Owen McCabe, the young Josh Connery there in the middle of the field, and they're going to push Clonduff. But I think like the rest of the panel, I'm going to have to edge with Clonduff. Their experience, and as Paula said there, they got off to a great start, beating Kilcoo in the first round of the league, and that's bound to instill a bit of confidence into them. So I'll go for Clonduff on this occasion, Jarlath.
Okay, Patsy, I want to keep you on the line just before anybody else comes back in. So we'll go straight into the Intermediate Championship. Tomorrow night's game is Division 4 Dromara are playing Division 2 St John's. Can we see anything there other than a St John's win down in Ballykindler?
No, I can't see Dromara. It's a local derby, so to speak, Jarlath. They're not that far apart. Dromara have some great young minor players coming through, and I'd say within 3 or 4 years they will progress up the league. But St John's, as you know, got a great draw there with Anrake there a couple of weeks ago in the league. I think it was down in the Kingdom, and they're definitely going to move places, St John's. So they would be one of the dark horses maybe for the Intermediate Championship. I fancy Shamrocks to win it. They were beaten last year's final with Lane, but St John's won't be far away. So I'm going to pip for St John's to beat tomorrow evening.
Okay, Paula or indeed
Friday,
Paul.
Yeah.
Have you a view on that St John's tomorrow game?
I would have to say I would agree with Patsy there. St John's would be looking to be too strong for Dromara, but Dromara are building, so in a couple of years we'll be hoping the same. But St John's, you fancy to come out of that, Jarlath?
All right, Paul.
Yeah, I'd be fancying St John's. Immediately when I think of St John's, you just think of big giants. There's 3 or 4 big lads, about the place. And Dromara, I remember Dromara, I think it was 2011, they were at the junior final, but they haven't been about much, since that. I think they got the semi-final maybe last year, but it's a big step for Dromara, and I definitely have to go St John's there, Jarlath. Definitely.
All right, Paul. Now, moving on, Shamrocks, Ollie Cole. Paul, I'll stay with you. A team very close to your heart there, Shamrocks. Your own son playing there.
Yeah.
They've had a flying start to the season in the league, Paul. Up against Ollie Cole tomorrow night in Newcastle.
The flying start, Jarlath, and me and Patsy were lucky enough to get down. We done a practice run last week. We were down at them in August-na-Finn, and I was thinking sort of before, August-na-Finn would be coming and they'd be putting it up to them. And I was amazed to see when I went down there would have been 45 out in the field. Patsy will verify this. They must have had 45 to 50 lads training. And I noted that they had 3 or 4 different boys back. They had 2 minor finals, Jarlath, not that long ago. And out of them, a couple of minor teams, different boys drifted here and there. And I noticed I noticed a lot of them boys back, young Murphy and Keller, and there's a couple of golfs there, and there's a big golf lad in the square. And I tell you what, they dominated Oxenfinn the other night. They ended up nearly, throwing all the subs and all on. So I'd have to agree with Patsy, in that Intermediate Championship, if you're looking at it on paper, you'd be looking at Leitrim, if you're looking at all the teams. But I tell you what, the Shamrocks will give anybody in that Intermediate Championship the fill of it this year on their day, Jarlath.
All right, thanks, Paul. Listen, Patsy's already touched on it there. Come back in, Patsy. You'd be of a similar view there to Paul, that Shamrocks are going to give that Intermediate a good rattle this year.
Absolutely. As Paul says, we were doing a trial for last Thursday evening there, and Paul was at the game also. Oxenfinn were a bit under strength, but you have to remember they've come up from the 1 Division 4, the first real title in their history, and they were beaten early by Bright in the junior final last year. So it's a big step, as Paul and Paula will tell you there, Jarlath, stepping up. 1, 2, and 3 and 4, there's massive gaps. You mightn't think that, but see, between even 3 and 4, there's a massive gap. So Auckland, to their credit, they beat the Connacht in their opening game, and then they drew with a good Savile side. They lost then to Clonabana, and of course, as Paul says there, Shamrocks got the better than last week. So, you know, it's very hard to... it's very hard.
All right, Patsy, sorry, you just dropped out again. Paula, I'm assuming, or I hope I'm not wrong, would you be of a similar view to the two lads in relation to the likely outcome of Shamrock's Attic Hall?
Yeah, I would. You know, an Attic Hall, a great club, and building themselves from underage up. But seeing Shamrocks last week, you know, certainly they were impressive. And, you know, the disappointment of last year's final will remain with them, Jarlath, and they will be wanting to go one step further. There's other teams there will also, but I would say that momentum and the hurt of the defeat last year will be something that Shamrocks will I'm sure Marty Tumley will use that as motivation to get the boys going well in this year's Intermediate Championship, Jarlath. So
right, thanks, Paula.
Shamrocks.
Thank you. Listen, just before we move on, we've lost Patsy again, so our apologies to the viewers for that. And I'm sure there's nobody more annoyed about the signal dropping out than Patsy himself. Patsy, we're going to try you again because we never ever give up. Are you back with us? You are.
Back by you, Jarlath, yeah.
Right, Patsy. We're moving on then. Friday night, Division, yes, Patsy, Division 2 Clone will be taking on Division 4 Bright over in Leitrim. How do you see that one going, Patsy?
Yeah, Bright done brilliant to win the junior championship last year. They'd been beaten 6 finals previous, so that was our first victory. Confidence. But going to Clone are not a bad side. As Paula, that's our native club. They've John Hockey in there at the helm, and they'll take a bit of stop. And they also could be dark horses too in that Intermediate Championship, Jarlath.
Well, Patsy, I can tell you that Noel Deegan from Bright is messaged in there. He doesn't agree with you. He says Bright are going to cause an upset. So anyway, Paula, as Patsy says, that's your home club. What way do you see that game going on Friday night?
Yeah, again, Clone are rebuilding with youth. There's still a lot of their senior players there with a lot of experience, but they've also starting, you know, a new line of youth coming through there. So I certainly would be back in Clone for that, you know, Jarlath.
Okay, Paul, you have a similar view.
Yeah, a similar view on that one. Yeah, I think Clone should take that one alright. But it's great to see some of the parents in the championship, Jarlath, too. You know what I mean? Clone, I don't think we're playing Bright that much, you know, in the normal run of things. And like, there's some great parents there we're looking at, you know, meeting clubs that wouldn't normally meet each other. And we forgot, Jarlath, about that hurling. And I see there, I just need to mention it, that in the senior hurling in that first game, Bright lost to Portaferry 4-19 to 12 points, yes? Okay. And in the other senior hurling championship round, Ballycrown and Ballygallagher, it went to a draw at extra time. They're into extra time, Jarlath. They're 6 minutes into extra time. So it was a draw at full time. They're still playing away at the minute, so they are.
All right, Paul, thanks for that update. Moving on with the Intermediate Football Championship. Once again, sponsored by Parador Lodge. On Saturday, over in Clonduff, Paula, Leitrim, who have had an excellent start to their league campaign, will take on Savile. How do you see that one going, Paula?
Yeah, Leitrim had a great start and a massive score, and I think that they scored something like 4-23 in their first 2 games. But Bosco pushed them right to the very, very end. Leitrim had to get 2 goals at injury time to get that victory against Bosco in the last game. But for championship, yeah, I think Leitrim is one of the teams that will be up there in the last 4, Jarlath. I really fancy Leitrim to come out of this one.
Okay. Patsy, they, of course, would be 2 clubs that would regard themselves as Division 3 would not be their natural home, and whenever things get back to normal, they'll be desperate to get out of it. But 2 heavyweight clubs in the context of down football. How do you see that game going between Leitrim and Savile, Patsy?
I I think I have to go with Paula there. I think I fancy Leitrim. They have some great players. Pierce Oak McCrickard, Conor McCrickard, Liam Middleton. And as Paul will tell you there, Bourne beat them in a minor final about 3 or 4 years ago. They were by Breda 2 years ago. They were actually getting beaten that game by 12 points, and they got it back to 2 points. So I think Liam Doyle's still at the helm, and there's some great youth coming through Leitrim. So as you say, I think the Division 3 final will be between Leitrim and Shamrocks. As Paula said there, they needed 2 goals against Bosco, a good young Bosco side too, and they come back and won that game in stoppage time. So as I say, I'd have to fancy Leitrim over Saville. Saville have some great players too. As you know, Pat Havern plays for down Donnelly McCarthy. There's some great young lads, but I think maybe they've lost a few players as well. So I have to fancy Leitrim on this occasion, Jarlath.
Okay, thanks, Patsy. Paul, what about yourself on that Leitrim Saville game?
Yeah, take enough game and that as well, Jarlath. I'm like, I was sort of leaning towards Paul and Patsy as well, and thinking Leitrim just because of Saville had a few funny results so far in the league. They've been up and they've been down, and they haven't been consistent. Leitrim seem to have a wee bit of consistency, and even when the backs was to the wall against Bosco, and we know about that. We had the Bosco man on the phone 6 minutes to go, and they were winning by 4 or 5 points. But Leitrim dug it out, and like that's a great lift for a club, Charles. Something like that there, and it's a great gelling point for a team. To be able to turn something like that round, and I think they're on the right road, and I'll be tipping Leitrim for that one, Jarlath, definitely.
Right, Paul. Paul, listen, I'm going to stay with you here, because when we move on until Saturday's game in Newcastle, it's Division 2 Unraked versus Division 3 Connacht. How do you see that one going? Yeah,
well, we were looking at Unraked as well, and it's great that we've done them couple of shows, Jarlath. It gives you a wee bit of you have a wee bit of an idea of what's going on around the place, and Rafe, a couple of good results so far in the league, and like you'd have to definitely fancy making that one. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going with Rafe in that one, Jarlath. Definitely going with Rafe.
Paula, what about yourself?
Yeah, I would just feel that Enrique a wee bit more experience over Connacht going into that game, and as Connacht won't fear anything in Championship, but I do believe that Enrique will ace that one, Jarlath.
Okay. Patsy, we'll let you have the last word on that game, Unraked versus Connacht.
Yeah, it has to be with our 2 panel members there, Jarlath. It has to be Unraked. You have to give Connacht credit. They're a small club, and they've opened brilliant new facilities. They have a second field and what have you. And I think that Joe Brawley there at the opening on the way back a few months back there. Great facilities. They will be a team of the future, but Unraked have some great minor teams over the years. Paul will tell you, way at the start of the noughties, I think they won a couple of minor championships. They've never won the senior championship, but they're making their way back again. And I suppose when you look at it, no players have left down this year to go stateside or whatever. So every club is in with a shout, as you said earlier at the top of the programme. But you have to fancy Unraked here, and they're not far away when it comes to the quarter or semi-finals of this intermediate championship.
Okay, thanks for that, Patsy. Moving on till the games on Sunday, Paula, in the intermediate championship. First up in Mayo Bridge is Saul versus Downpatrick. Again, we're in Division 2 versus a Division 3 team. Both teams have played 2. Both have 1 victory and 1 defeat behind them in the league so far. How do you see that game going, Paula?
Who do you Saul versus?
Ballymartin.
Ballymartin, you were confusing me there because you called it Saul versus Downpatrick, and I'm thinking that can't be right. No, I think Saul.
Apologies, Paula.
You're all right, Jarlath. I've started to panic myself. Ballymartin will be looking to have a good championship campaign, but Saul have been building momentum over the last couple of seasons, and they've got off their first start there. So I would be expecting Saul to edge Ballymartin in this one, Jarlath.
Okay. Patsy, what's your view on that? I see Peter Fitzpatrick still remains an integral part of that team, according to Joseph Donnan in this week's Morning Observer. What's your view on that one, Patsy?
Yeah, I think I have to go with Paula there. I fancy Saul. That win against Castlewellan will give them umpteen confidence going into this game. Ballymartin have Paul and Kevin Duffin, part of their management team. Ballymartin were a great intermediate side. They won the championship with Paul Talia way back in the early noughties and stuff like that. To get the semi-finals and finals like that. As I say, that they're a club that's built in two, but you have to fancy Saul on this occasion.
Okay, so that's 2 are opting for Saul. Paul, are you going to make it 3 in a row?
Yeah, well, I would lean towards Saul, Jarlath, on that one, but I would expect the free-flowing game there. Anytime you go to Ballymartin or anybody goes to Ballymartin, there's always plenty of scores rattled up, and they're not a defensive team in any way, Jarlath. They seem to go for it, that sort of way. They don't sit behind the ball, but I'd be expecting Hay score the fair, and Saul just edged that. They're common team this last couple of years, and they're edging towards the top, the top divisions, Jarlath. And they have been progressing over the last 3 or 4 years. So I think Saul and Progress should take that one, but I'd be expecting Hay score the fair there, Jarlath.
All right. Fair enough, Paul. We only have 2 games to left to preview here on the Intermediate Championship. Patsy, we'll go back to you. On Sunday, the first game up is Gath versus Clonabana. How do you see that one going?
Well, apparently Peggy Downey has returned to the fold in Drumgath. That will give them a boost, and you would have to fancy them there again. Clonabana, definitely Drumgath. They won the Intermediate Championship a couple of times there in the not too distant past there. So they're not a bad side, Drumgath, but you'd have to fancy them there against Clonabana, yeah. All
right, thanks, Patsy. And Paula?
Yes, I will be going with Patsy on that one. I think that's the outcome. Could be an interesting game, Jarlath, but that would be also my prediction on that game.
All right. And Paul, are you going to go 3 for Clonabana? Are you going to take up the rear and go the same way as Patsy and Paula?
I think I will have to go the same way because I know a few of the Gath lads and they have a knob on side too. Clonabana, they're in and out. It'll be a local enough derby, that Jarlath too. And Patsy mentioned there, like, Drumgath won the junior in 2016 and they appeared in a final in 2013 as well in the intermediate against Bosco. So they're always rattling about there. And like Peggy Down would be in addition to any team. You know what I mean? Like especially Drumgath again if he's back there. Well, I'd say Patsy's near enough in the mark. I'll be going for Drumgath on that one. Clonabana. No, I'm going with Drumgath, Jarlath. I have to stick with Drumgath on that one.
Fair enough, Paul. Fair enough. Right, the last game in the intermediate is Bosco versus Tullalish. Paula, we'll let you start off for that one.
Yeah, well, Tullalish, an interesting enough mixed fortunes at the start there of the league campaign. Bosco, that game against Leitrim, and I think they're probably going to take a lot of momentum from that Leitrim game. The fact that it was the last 2 minutes that they lost. It's going to be very tight, but I'm going to go on this occasion. I'm going to go with Tullalish.
Okay, Paula. Patsy, how do you see that one going? Bosco were the last team in the county to kick a ball in anger, and as Paula says, they had Leitrim on the ropes in the last league game, just for it to go all wrong at the very death. How do you see Bosco and Tullalish going, Patsy? Paul, we'll maybe go with you.
I think he's away again, Jarlath, is it?
Yeah, we've lost Patsy again, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's away again. The Bosco and Tullalish. Yeah. The Bosco, we sort of covered that Leitrim game, but I think they went to Aldi Call since that, Jarlath, in one of the last Friday night's games, and they lost again. So they've lost 2 games on the run into this one. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be a tough one, you know what I mean? But at the end of it all, I think I'll maybe have to tip on that one, Jarlath. Are you hearing me all right? Yeah, you are, yeah?
I hear you 100%, yeah.
Yeah. And that one, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll go for Bosco in that one, Maybe we'll go for Bosco. Tullalish haven't been making any miraculous moves, and the Bosco, they must have something in them when they had Leitrim. As Paula said, they had Leitrim right to the wire in that last match. So I'm going to go with the Bosco in that one, Jarlath. Stick with the Newry team.
Fair enough.
Business there.
Okay, right. We're on the home straight now. We're into Junior Football Championship. also sponsored by Parador Lodge. First game up on Thursday is St. Paul's, who are 3 from 3 in the league, versus Mitchell's. Patsy, any views on that one? St. Paul's, Mitchell's. Sorry, Patsy, we're not getting you. We're not getting you. So I'll have to, Paula, take that one. St. Paul's and Mitchell's.
Yeah, St. Paul's have got off to a great start. Jarlath had a very impressive win over Glasdrummoon in one of their league games. Mitchell's, their game again, Drummond, they held them near enough to the end, but lost out there. But I do believe that St. Paul's will be too strong for them on this occasion, Jarlath.
Okay, thanks, Paula. Patsy, do you maybe just want to try and unmute your mic? It's something simple there.
Yeah, we're back again here. St. Paul's and Mitchell's, Jarlath, it's going to be a close affair. St. Paul's were beaten narrowly in the semi-final last year by Bright, and you would love to see them winning the championship. Mitchell, trainer at the helm, they run Drummond very close there a couple of weeks ago, so Mitchell's could cause a wee bit of a shock there, but I have to go with St. Paul's on this occasion, Jarlath.
Okay, thanks, Patsy. And Paul, are you taking a different view?
St. Paul's, Mitchell's, yeah. Well, I'd be on recent matches, Jarlath. You'd have to lean towards St. Paul's. Like, we'll cover St. Paul's rightly. They've 2 Grimleys there, and they have. Well, you heard me mention them, Sean Tucker, and they've a couple of Eastwood fellas there. They're brave players. They've been on down development squads and underage squads, and like the Mitchells have too. They've their talisman, Rory Cunningham, and like they have Shane Cooney still playing there, and Donny still playing, and I tell you what, it'll be a tight enough game, but I'd have to maybe I'm going to tip Mitchells in that one, Jarlath. I'm going to go for Mitchells in that one, yeah.
Oh, wow, your mic will definitely not be muted because that's Mr. McCoy's team, as you know.
I'm going for the Mitchells in that one, yeah.
Right, very good.
Mr. McCoy in that one, Jarlath. I think there's a few threatening messages to go with. I didn't do that. I think it was going to be muted. Like.
We'll want to get as much out of Patsy here as we can. So Patsy, we're going back to you. Oculus and Finn versus Ardglass. It's a game on Friday night over in Leitrim. How do you see that one going?
Well, Oculus and Finn will be full of confidence, as we talked earlier there. You know, they beat the Connacht and the drew with Savile in the league, so that'll give them great confidence. But Ardglass are a bit of an unknown quantity. As you know, there'll be a lot of soccer played around Ardglass, but there's no soccer being played at the moment. So Ardglass will be picking from probably a full squad there. So as I say, there'll not be much between them, but I'm going to give a slight vote to Oculus and Finn, Jarlath.
Okay, right, Patsy. Paul, what's your view on that?
Just on that match, Oculus and Finn and Ardglass. Very, very tight one to call, Jarlath. Very tight one to call. And I've been looking on that out Twitter, and I've seen during the week there, Ardglass had, I don't know if you've seen it or not there, Patsy maybe seen it, but they've 20 fishermen living down there, 20 Nigerians, and they had them all out on the GAA pitch last week doing a bit of coaching with them. They were learning them how to toe tap the ball and pass it and fist it. It was lovely to see it, Jarlath. But in regards to this match here, I think I'm looking there at the Ardglass. No, Stephen Rooney. I remember I covered them. They were in the final. I'm not sure. They were in the final a few years ago. Maybe 2015 they appeared in the junior final. I think Glasdrummoon beat them. But they've Stephen Rooney and they have they've Michael McGee there, played for Down, Jarlath. They have a couple of players there, but Ox to Finn be strong. They've Crossgrees and Flanagan's and that. And well, in tipping that one, I'm going to go Ox to Finn, Jarlath. Despite all the Nigerian fishermen, you know what I mean? I'm going Ox to Finn.
Well, sure. If they maybe keep improving on their hand to toe, they'll maybe give it a rattle next year.
Did you see that, Jarlath, on Twitter? Yeah,
I did see it. Yeah, Paula, any view on that before we move on?
No, I would agree with Paul on that one, Jarlath. Again, it was a terrific story to see the fishermen out and been welcomed into the local community, and that is what the GA does and does really, really well. So Yeah, I will go with Paul on that one.
Okay. Patsy, I'm coming back to yourself. We're moving on to Ahadurg, Drummond-S. Drummond-S are 3 from 3 in the in their first 3 league games. Ahadurg are yet to get a point on the board. Could I suggest to you that Drummond-S will expect to keep that run going in this championship game?
Absolutely. Drummond-S, Jarlath will be hottest of hot favourites probably for this junior championship. You'd have to fancy him very strongly, and as I said to you earlier, there'd be a few lads would probably play soccer around Drummond-S, but with no soccer at the minute, they're picking from a full panel, and they'll take some beating. You know, Mitchell's put up a good show against them there, as Paul talked about a couple of weeks ago. That you've covered that on your league programme. Mitchell's were actually winning by 6 points, and Drummond-S came back to beat them 213 to 211. But I have to go for Drummond-S there, Jarlath.
Well, Patsy, would it be fair to say that you expect Drummond-S to be thereabouts, actually competing for the Junior Football Championship?
Yeah, Drummond-S, as I say, to me, you know, they shouldn't really be in the Junior Championship, and that's not taken away from any of the other teams. You know, there's some great youth coming through, so they have Jarlath, and as I say, once you have a clash between Gaelic and soccer, sometimes, you know, it has an effect on a team. But at this moment in time, as I say, there's very little soccer taking place, so we have to fancy Drummond-S, and as I say, whoever who beats Drummond-S will win the Junior Championship. That's okay. It in a nutshell, in my opinion, Jarlath, for what it's worth.
Fair enough, Patsy. Paula, what's your view on that?
Yes, yeah, Drummond-S would be fancying Drummond-S there, certainly. Not taking away from Ahadurg, they're doing good work and trying to bring as many youths on there at dual club, as you know. But yeah, you were expecting Drummond-S, they're a big, strong side there, Jarlath, so I will be going with Drummond-S and that as well.
Okay, Paul, any different view on that particular fixture?
No, I'd be going the same way, Jarlath. Drummond-S, they're going well at the minute now. I was down last year at a league game down there. The club scene's going well for them at the minute. They're very, very strong. They're one of the only unbeaten teams going into this championship. There's only a few teams unbeaten in the whole league situation, Jarlath. Drummond-S being one of them, and not only are they unbeaten, they're winning them matches very, very easy. Do you know what I mean? They're big scores they're rattling up, and they're a good club down there. And had a great night's crack down last year. I think Tom Potter's part of them down there. Like, I'd be tipping them. Ahadurg, if a work to do to becoming up to Drummond-S strength, Jarlath, I'll tell you that.
Right, fair enough, Paul. Paul, listen, I'll stay with you. Dundrum versus East Belfast is the second game, also on in Bright on Sunday. Neither team has any points on the board yet. So fairly evenly matched, you would have thought on paper. But again, another historic day, East Belfast first championship game.
Yeah, we've been following East Belfast the show, and they've yet to get a win at any level, and I don't think it's going to come in the championship for them, Jarlath. I think Dundrum will be too strong for them. It's a great fairy tale story coming out of there, and we're following it on the show here week by week, and we're loving to see them win at some level, whether it be reserve or football or hurling or camogie, or they're playing everything, you see. So in that game, regard to that game, I don't think they'll come out of that one. I think Dundrum would be too strong for them, but too experienced. And just thinking about Dundrum, I think we covered them in the final maybe a couple of years ago as well. Did they play Bright in the junior final? I think in 2017. I think they beat Bright in the 2017 junior final, so they did. So on experience, I'm going to Dundrum, Jarlath, on that one.
Well, whenever you were mentioning that final there, 2017, Paul, Patsy was nodding vigorously. So Patsy, I'm going to let you come in there and add on anything you want to what Paul has just said there, and just give us your view, Patsy, on the whole East Belfast situation down there. It's an incredible story. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah, well, it's probably only about 14-15 miles down the road from me here in Ballynahinch, Jarlath, and you have to give them credit. I think it was a young man that used to play for the Connacht came up with the idea, David McCreevy, Bonzo, he's known to people. He sort of put this idea about starting a team. You have to give them credit. I don't know how many members they have. I think is it up in 1,000, including ladies and that. And fair play to CPN. The East Belfast ladies team went down there to Warren Point to play, and they give them a lovely cake and all. I'm sure you've seen it on social media. Fast, they're going to be one of these teams that will play a long time. Maybe will get a win. But the likes of Auckland and that had to play a long time too when they were reformed to get a win. So you have to give East Belfast credit. And as Paula said there, you would have to fancy Dundrum. But credit East Belfast for forming. And it's great to see. And I suppose they've got great coverage, great Ulster coverage in Ulster, in Down, and of course on the national media. So fair play to them.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Paula, you want to just give us your view on that?
Yeah, I would have to say that you would be fancying Drum on that one. But, starting the club's never easy, but given the conditions that East Belfast started up in the middle of this pandemic, it's brilliant to see them, and it's great to see someone take that initiative and involve so many people from different walks of life all coming together there to play every game. So it's great. So obviously, give East Belfast a few years, let them build on the talents that they have, and there'll be a club that will be pushing lots of clubs down. It'll be Dundrum for me in this one, Jarlath.
Okay, Paula. Okay, Paul, we're going to go to you then for the final game on Monday night. It's the opener over in Bourne. It's Glasdrumond versus St Michael's. How do you see that one going?
That could be the best game of the whole championship, Charles. Would you believe that? It's as tight a game on paper as you would see. St Michael's might have a wee bit of an edge. Glasdrumond of the Harrisons. We know Connery went. I think he went to East Belfast a couple of weeks ago and scored 310. We covered it on the show. They have a few players in and out, but Glasdrumond have the Harrisons. St Michael's, you know what I mean? They have a couple of big players too, and they've been getting a couple of results. I tell you what, that could be the best game of the championship, Jarlath, regardless of senior or whatever. You know what? On paper, the two teams are fairly well matched, Jarlath. And if I was going to tip somebody in that one, I'd have to tip St Michael's, I think, in that one. Just because Glasdrumond blows so hot and cold, Jarlath. They're either lethal or else they're the opposite to that. I'm going to tip St Michael's in that one, and that's the last game of the championship. I hope you've that all jotted down somewhere, Jarlath, because I don't remember one bit of it.
That's fair enough. Well, Paul, if I will certainly have a great pleasure in reminding you, particularly the ones that you called wrong. So, anyway, Paula, Glasdrumond versus St Michael's, Paula.
Yeah, I would agree with Paul that it will be a good tight game, and for smaller clubs, I hail from a small club initially myself, and smaller clubs, it is hard work. It's hard work getting guys out there week on week and building with underage. And Glasdrumond have been very blessed in Conor Harrison and a great footballer for the county as well. So Michael's doing a lot of way down at that end of our county too to keep them going. And like I say, sometimes it's harder work for them wee clubs than it is the big clubs. But this occasion, I'm going to stay with Glasdrumond, Jarlath.
Okay. Patsy, I've already mentioned it. This is the last game we're going to preview, so just give us your view on that one, Patsy.
Yeah, I would agree with Paula there. St Michael's small club and rebuilding it work down there, but it depends what sort of a Glasdrumond team takes the field. When they're good, and when they're bad, they're indifferent. So I have to favour Glasdrumond there. They won this championship not that long ago. Would it be, 5-6 years ago, Paula, that they won the junior championship. So, you have to tip Glasdrumond on this occasion, guys.
Okay, thanks for that, Patsy. Now, $20.15. Okay, thanks, Paul. Patsy, now before we lose you again, because I don't want to jinx everybody here, we were having a chat before we went on air, and you were of the view that this could be the year for a shock. This could be the year that maybe one of the big guns will just not get over the lane because somebody has come out of left field and caught them cold. Do you want to expand on that or tell us exactly where you see these championships end up after finals day?
Well, as you said yourself there, Jarlath, if you're beating the first round, still at the back door, there's not that many teams really come through the back door to win the championship. But as Paul said there earlier, from the last team apart from Kilcoo and Bourne to win the championship was Newbridge in 2008. So, you know, you're talking somebody to come out of the pack. It's going to be wild hard for an outsider. I'm going to put my head in the block here, and if I was picking apart from the big three, which are Bourne, CPN, and Kilcoo, if I was going to pick one that could maybe win the championship, I would go for Newbridge as an outsider. That's my outsider tip, Jarlath.
That's your each way bet. But if you had 100 to put on the nose, whose nose would you be putting it on?
Yeah.
If you had 100 to put on the nose, whose nose?
It has to be the Magpies. You know, the Magpies. They're still good. They're still a good side. You know, last year in the All-Ireland final, they had 45 players. Jarlath, 45 players. You know, that's a big pick. That's a big pick. But they're going to take some beating. And as I said earlier, they're probably the team that beats Kilcoo. Obviously, will win the championship. CPN. Maybe they missed the boat last year. I think maybe they did. You know, that's a hard one again, Bourne in the first round, and you never know. But as you say, Jarlath, it's a different year. Clubs have only played 2 games. You know, nobody has an advantage over any other club. So it'll all depend on the luck of the draw. You know, Bourne will tell you they won 2 All-Irelands. You need a bit of luck. No matter what you do in life, you need that little bit of luck. Look at Mayo there. They never had any luck, you know. So when you go on it that way, you need a bit of luck. Things need to go for you. And as I say, I'm sure like the rest of us, we're looking forward to these 3 championships. And not forgetting the minors. This is the under-17s, Paul, this year too. So we're in for a real treat. And let's hope, you know, this COVID stays away and we can get our championships finished. Then, of course, we're into the county scene once again. So as I say, we're all looking forward to it. And Glen, as I said, Glen and Brainsford, our first live game with Park TV on Sunday, and it's something to look forward to. And then, of course, you have that local derby, Warren Point against Bourne on the Sunday night, and then the Battle of the Duffs on the Monday night. So we're in for a treat, Charlotte, this weekend.
Well, Patsy, thank you very much for that. And listen, Paula and Paul, I'm sure will have no problem continuing to give way because that's the longest we've had you on the line all night. I want you to tell me who's going to win the intermediate, Patsy, and who's going to win the junior championship, in your opinion. And I think we've just lost Patsy again. Oh, and of course, no fault of Patsy's. It's just a bad line up there. Anyway, listen, Paula, I'm coming back to you then. Senior championship. Give me your 3 winners: senior, intermediate, and junior.
Well, Jonathan, it is a very hard one to call. You know, we have definitely Kilcoo's up there. They are the big guns. They're the ones that everybody's wanting to beat. Bourne will not forget their defeat to them last year. It's been a while since Mayor Bridges had success at senior level, and CPN again. I reckon this year you could see, I think that as the Bridges young team, I think they're a wee while away yet. I reckon you could see Kilcoo still there for another year, Charles.
Okay, right. Give us your intermediate winner.
I suppose in intermediate, I was saying, you know, you'd be looking at the experience of Anaclone and Leitrim both there. I'm not going to go past my own home club, Charles. I'm going to tip Anaclone.
Oh, very good, very good. Right, Paula, just you may wrap it up there with your junior championship winner prediction.
Junior championship. We spoke on them earlier in Drummondess. A bit of experience behind them. A few clubs there will be pushing them. And I think in the junior, it probably depends on how you get out. If you get out a good start, you start to build momentum. But I'm going to go with Drummondess in this one, Jarlath.
Okay, Paula, thanks for your insight on that. Paul, coming back to you, give me your senior winner, Paul.
Yeah, just on the wrap up on that, Jarlath, and I would like to, just before I do go into that, I wish all the officials and referees all the best this weekend, linesmen and umpires that have a job to do. We have a couple of new referees added to the fold. We'll be getting the first championship games this weekend, Jarlath. I just want to give them a wee shout out and give them a mention, because without these men, we would have no football at all. With Colin Griven, Kevin McGrath, Peter Owens, Conor Corn, Michael Moore, Brian Higgins, and Mark Torrey will be entering the four as referees in this year's championship. And I wish them and all the boys the best of luck with their officiating dues. And back to the senior championship now. My big three, Patsy's big three, and my big three would be different, Jarlath. Probably yours would be different. Probably Paula's will be different. Like, I would be still putting Mayo Bridge in my big three. You know what I mean? But I don't know why that is. But anyhow, on the senior championship, Paula was saying Kilcoo will be hard to beat. They will be hard to beat. I'm going to mention Mayo Bridge again. If a young, they'll be wanting that. I was down last year at the quarter final in Bourne, Jarlath. They limped out very disappointing against Ballyholland, and like they were expecting to move on through that game. They'll be wanting to, to put that to rest and seeking to get a bit of momentum going again and like get a championship back to the club. I remember not that long ago, Jarlath, like you were going to championships and they were winning them, that sort of way. And Kilcoo have done that, went on a run the same as that, and that run will come to an end too. So senior championship this year, I'm tipping Mayo Bridge. There you are, Jarlath, on the senior championship. Intermediate, it comes between, like, go to the intermediate now, you're talking Shamrocks, Leitrim. I'm getting taxes here. Don't be tipping us. Don't be tipping us. From different ways, texting me on the phone here. Tell me, don't be tipping. Oh, God, Jarlath, don't be tipping us. That's the way. But I have to tip somebody. Like, so, intermediate. We talked about it earlier. Boil down to Shamrocks and Leitrim, and I'm going to be tipping Shamrocks in that one. And towards the junior, I'm going to agree with Paul. I think Drummondess are too strong. I think they probably should be in the intermediate. I agree with Patsy said earlier. I'm not taking anything away from any of the teams in the junior, but my three there, Jarlath, and you can write this down if you want. Mayo Bridge, Shamrocks, Drummondess.
Okay.
There you are.
All
I'm
right.
going to leave you with that.
Patsy, I'll have you back in the lane. We had you long enough to get your prediction in relation to senior. You sided with Kilcoo in the end. We never got your intermediate or your junior, so hopefully we're going to get them off you now.
Well, it's just near the same as Paul there. It's a toss-up between Leitrim and Shamrocks, but as I said earlier, there Shamrocks beat in the final last year. I'm going to give them a slight nod over the Fontenoys, and as I say, I can't see Drummondess being beat. I could be wrong, but three. And we talked earlier there about the outsider, the Bridge, an outside bet. Jarlath, if Kilcoo don't win it, I'm going to pop for the Bridge.
Fair play to you, Patsy. Well, listen,
What about yourself, Jarlath?
Well, I tell you this here.
You made as well now. You'll have to do something.
Well, no, I was sitting waiting there to see who would pick up on it. The only Division 1 team that has full points apart from Bourne is, albeit only 2 games played, is Clonduff. And I think Clonduff, if they get off to a winning start against Carryduff and are able to build momentum, they've been going well this year, Clonduff. And I can tell you, it's the more wins you get under your belt and the confidence that grows within a panel, it can be very hard to knock them out of their stride. So just to give a bit of interest, I am actually going to punt that Clonduff are going to win the 2020 senior championship. In intermediate, I would have to say, based on league form, it's a toss-up between Leitrim and Shamrocks. But I would have to say the doggedness and the Liam Doyle factor would tip that in Leitrim's favour for me, providing they get the whole way to the final. And in the junior, I have to agree with what everybody else has said there. Drummond S just seem to be a wee bit too strong for that championship they're in based on their performances to date. So, folks, that's it. Thanks very much for your time on that, Patsy, Paul and Paula. Listen, chirp in there. Anything else you just want to talk about? We are going to, of course, end the programme with the video from the interview with the county chairman. That is about 24 minutes long, so we'll sign off of that. We'll not come back in, but feel free to talk there about anything else that you want to unburden yourselves with.
Well, we're all finished, Charles.
As I say,
thanks very much for having me. Go ahead, Patsy.
Sorry, Paul. I was just going to say there, my technical knowledge of computers isn't great, and as you say, you can't control the signal you get. But I'd like to thank you for onto the show, and congratulations. Everybody's talking about your league results on Friday night, so continue your good ones. It's nice to get results up to date coming in live on a Friday night. But as you said there's only really going to be 4 or 5 league games, so the championship's going to come hot and heavy every week there, as Paula said, and I'm sure everybody's looking forward to the draw then on Monday night after Clonduff and Kerryduff.
Yeah, thanks for that. And Jarlath, I just round up. I forgot to let the folks know the final score in that Morgan Fusion Hurling Championship round 2. Ballygalget actually didn't score an extra time at all, Jarlath. It ended up Ballygalget 2-12, Ballycrown 24. So Ballycrown run away with a bit of that in extra time. So that's Ballycrown Portaferry through in the hurling there. And again, I'll say to you and Paul, I'm glad to be on the show. I enjoy it. It's probably the most relaxing hour I have all week, and that's the truth to you. We'll be busy, on the build-up to this show. Paul and Harry were running about, we're doing this, we're doing that. Very enjoyable. And I'd like to also mention the man in the background that's trying to steer us all in the right direction. Cahill does a great job there trying to keep the thing up and running. And like, he had a few technical problems tonight to deal with. He seems to have sorted it the best he could. And he needs a wee mention too. He's sitting there in the background, and he's there as much as we are, keeping us going, Jarlath. And I'll just say a cheerio to everybody, and I hope to see you in next week's show. That's all I'm saying, Jarlath.
All right, Paula, you have a few words there you want to finish on?
Yeah, I just think it is great buzz and excitement, Jarlath, ahead of the start of the championship this weekend. Back March, April, people would have been predicting there'll be no football kicked all year, and thankfully we have been able to get up and going. And it's great, when you go down to your own club and you're seeing teams, wee teams, big teams, all coming out back to play. So it's great for the senior players to be given the chance to compete in the 2020 championship, and I think there's a great buzz about ahead of this weekend. So we look forward to some great ties, Jarlath, and we'll get talking about them then next week. Thank you.
Okay, Paula, thanks very much for that. Of course, it goes without saying, everybody going to games, stay safe and respect the mitigation measures that are put in place. They are there for everybody's safety. So, Patsy, let me in particular give thanks to yourself for coming on and giving us an insight to your knowledge and your predictions for the first round games. And hopefully, maybe we'll all be back together before round 2 some night next week. So if Cal maybe wants to upload the video there and bring it in there, and we're happy enough to step back. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Accordia, August, Fáilte go Cahirla, Common, Lucas, Gale and Doon, Jack Devaney. Jack, you're very, very welcome as County Chairman onto Destination Uri TV.
Good to talk to you, Jarlath.
Yep. You're keeping all right, yep?
I'm doing okay, yeah, like everyone else.
That's good. Okay, listen, we'll get straight into this. Jack, listen, you've been in post for less than a year, and undoubtedly, when all chairmen first come in at the start of their term, they have a vision and a goal for that term. But it's fair to say that none of your predecessors were faced with a global pandemic on the scale of COVID that affects every single aspect of all our lives. So you've taken on a hot potato, Jack, inadvertently, but no doubt you're up for the challenge ahead.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it's been a different kind of a challenge. I'm not saying it's any more difficult than anyone experiences when they go into a position like this, even in the past. But even the fact that so much of the year we were in lockdown and there was very little activity there, and that brings with it a lot of frustration, because at times you were thinking that we mightn't see any kind of activity at all. But now that we're back up and running, and that our games and competitions are ongoing, and we're being able to see a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, and being able to proceed with championships at club and inter-county level, at least that gives us something. But yeah, certainly I wouldn't have thought back in December or January that we were going to end up in the situation that we have done over the last number of months. It has been challenging for everyone, because I think first and foremost we've had to keep at the forefront of our mind the importance of personal and public health. That's been the first thing, and then look at what the GAA can do around that. And there's been some positives even in lockdown as well. But yes, however, in my mind, I planned out the season. This wasn't going to be part of it.
Of course. Listen, I suppose it goes without saying, there was a time 2 or 3 months ago where none of us thought there was going to be any on-field activity this year, and we were so delighted throughout the length of the county, and indeed throughout the island, that those restrictions were sort of eased off a bit to allow that to happen. Listen, we've our own county in particular has had their fair share of localized cases of COVID, and clubs took the mitigation measures themselves. No particular reason for that, I'm sure you would agree, but I certainly would compliment the way the clubs dealt with that on their own individual basis, and I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, when the restrictions were lifted and we headed back in towards activity again, I don't think really we would have anticipated the number of cases that would have popped up across clubs. We've probably had about 8 or 9 clubs affected at this stage. And when the first few came, people were very apprehensive about it, because they were taking measures in some cases that were just closing down everything for a particular period of time. And in some cases, we would have deemed it to be an unnecessary precaution to take at times. But I think as time has gone on, with the cases that have arisen, people have taken a very sensible approach. We're not the public health experts, so we leave that to the doctors and other personnel to determine. And they work alongside the people who have tested positive and the close contacts and the clubs involved. And we ask our clubs to follow the guidance that's there, and they've done that. Now, where there's a positive case within a club, you are seeing activity being closed down for a couple of days until such time as they know that they're clear again. And that's going to continue to happen, probably where positive cases arise within clubs. We do know that in relation to leagues, it was easier to manage, because you could pull a league game and maybe put it in towards the end. But as we move into championship, we're in a slightly different position. So what we've put in place is a regulation whereby if there is a particular case, let's say, for instance, you have a championship game tomorrow night and you have a positive case today, you will have a 72-hour window from the original fixture date and time to have that game played. But if it's not played within that window, then the game is forfeited and we move on, because otherwise you can be in a situation with a championship, particularly ours, where you move from week to week, where the whole thing can get, can close down for a particular period of time, and we have to wait on clubs or wait on games to be played, and that makes it unmanageable. So I think clubs are happy enough with that kind of pragmatic approach that we've taken to this, and it's probably a sensible one.
Okay, so just to be clear on that point, Jack, because I actually wasn't aware of that. So if a case, a newly discovered case, comes into a club, that club has 72 hours till take to the field, or they will forfeit the game if it happens to fall on a championship game.
Yeah, it's 72 hours from the date and time of the original fixture.
Okay.
So if you have a positive case today, knowing that you have a fixture on, let's say, Friday night, well, then you have until Monday night to play the game.
Okay.
And as you know, the kind of cycle of our championship is that our games run really from a Thursday to a Monday.
Sure.
Therefore, we start again on the Thursday and move to the Monday, and it goes weekend by weekend. So that meant that we could probably, get the game played and then move on to the next round. Whereas if you had to goes down for a week or 10 days or whatever, and still leave the allowance for that game to be played, well, then you're moving right well into the next week, and the whole thing gets pushed back, and many more clubs get affected by it.
Of course.
There have been other counties who have decided, listen, if you can't play the fixture, you forfeit the fixture.
Right,
and we move on. Whereas at least we've offered the kind of window that's going to be.
Well, you've made the point there. Like, there is a domino effect, and if those issues cannot be resolved, and I suppose that's something you always have to try and avoid. Now, championship, of course, this weekend is like any other season, although this is a very much changed season, is the highlight of the year for most clubs, and. But big changes, Jack. Limited numbers, standalone fixtures. Can you just tell us what's happening there? Because I know there's a plan to stream games as well. So can you just give us an overall sort of outlook or overview of what has been planned for the first round of championship starting tomorrow night?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, crowd restrictions is the first challenge that we have. In normal circumstances, the likes of a Kilcoo versus Mayo Bridge or a Warren Point versus Burren, which were the first two games out of the draw in relation to senior championship, you would be expecting big crowds for those, whereas our capacity is limited in that regard. So we've gone down the route of online ticket sales through the clubs and in general sale, but it's up to the limit that's going to be there. I have to say, in the first weekend where we've had the hurling championship, even from a technical point of view, it actually does work quite well, because people arrive with their ticket or their ticket on the phone, they get a scan, and they move in, and then we're aware of how many's in the ground, and we can, if needs be, in a track and trace situation, we can account for everyone, and everyone has a ticket, and everyone has a number to their ticket, and their name is attached to it as well. But we've also had the other restrictions as well that clubs have had to abide by in relation to arriving to a game, not using the dressing room, having limited numbers on the line, applying social distancing as well. We've had to put regulations in place, and to be fair to clubs, every one of them are quite understanding that this is going to be a requirement going forward for the rest of the championship for us. But as a lot of other counties are doing, our plan this weekend is to have, we're looking to have 3 games streamed live. They're going to be the Glen Bryansford and the Warren Point Burren game on the Sunday, and then on the Monday night, Carryduff versus Clonduff. So we will be advertising over the next couple of days on our social media platforms all the details about how people can access that. And as we move through the championship, that opportunity will be there in the next couple of rounds, and will increase as we come to the knockout stages of the championship. But those are the kind of provisions that we've had to put in place. People, particularly through the league games that we've hosted so far, are getting used to that. They are going to be frustrated by the fact that a lot of people can't attend games. But that's the way it is at the moment, and that's not something that's our doing or our fault. It's just something that is there. There was a time when we were hoping that the numbers would be bigger at this particular stage, and they're not. Maybe some restrictions might be lifted again as we move on, but our expectation is that the crowd limits that are there at the moment will be the restriction that will be there for us for most of the championship.
Fair enough.
I have to say, we are running with our championships with the same kind of format that we've had in recent years. We decided not to try and change that, and that's a positive thing as well, because that means that there's no change. We don't have to introduce a straight knockout, or we don't have to change the championship in a particular way. We do it as we have done, even though it's in a more contained time frame.
Okay, listen. Just one of the pick up one of the points you raised there was about the ability to purchase tickets online, and it's fair to say that technology has really come to the fore in the past few months, and it's great to see so many clubs and counties utilising what's at their disposal. Could you just confirm, Jack? So the allocation of tickets, championship by its very nature, draws a lot of neutrals to games, particularly where you have two fairly big hitters playing each other. How does a neutral acquire tickets? Do they still have to go through either of those clubs that are involved, or can tickets be purchased directly from the county office?
No, there's an allocation for the two clubs involved naturally, and there's a third allocation. Again, all of these are quite limited, but where you download an app called myticketsapp.co.uk, and you can purchase your ticket from that, and you can keep your ticket on your phone so that when you go to the game, that you're able to be scanned through. So in many respects, you can either print off your ticket or use your phone, as you would in a lot of cases anyway for other kinds of events. But there are limited numbers up to the limits that we have, and some of those limits go as far as 400 or that. But that's the way it's doing that. There's a 3-channel way, the two clubs, and then the general allocation as well.
Fair enough.
Again, just to manage people's expectation around it, they are extremely limited.
No, I understand that. And listen, will you just reaffirm changing rooms remain closed to teams?
That's right. Yes, and for the foreseeable future, we have not been given an indication as yet as to when or at what point they are going to relax that particular restriction. But yes, teams will arrive. So nobody will be going into the changing rooms in Park Esser or anywhere else for the foreseeable future.
Okay. Well, Jack, listen, I do congratulate the county board on their ability this year to retain the championship structure. I think is something that has worked over the past couple of years, and at least people know that this weekend will not be the end of what is already a very much a curtailed season. So good luck with that. Listen, can we move on? The county team is one that's really been put on the back burner this past few months. We are scheduled to resume battle in the middle of October, and certainly the senior team are praying for promotion. I hope you'd agree with that.
Yeah, and we were always keen, naturally, being in that position when lockdown came, that when we resume action, that the National League could be completed. For a long time, that looked unlikely, that we were just going to be moving straight to Championship. But I think that enough counties made their case in that regard for them to start the resumption of the inter-county season with the 2 remaining league games. That's good news for us, because it at least gives us the opportunity to try and push on for promotion. Now, we know that there are no guarantees of that. As you remember last year, going into the last round of fixtures, we were in a very good position and we didn't make it. But opportunity arises in that regard for us in relation to league, and it's probably set up fairly well in that then allows you, if you get through those 2-round games, provides you with a platform going into the Championship if they happen to go well. So definitely looking forward to that. But as you did say, the county scene is on the back burner, and what you're seeing across the board at the moment is the focus is and will be on the clubs. Even if you notice that in national broadcasting stations on a Saturday or Sunday, they're reporting from club games, whereas at this particular time of season, they would be reporting on the big inter-county games. And that's a good thing from a PR point of view for club championships. And a lot of the focus is going to be on that. Whereas there will be no focus at all on our inter-county scene until the club championships are finished. And even at that stage, the county team would only have gone back into training at that particular point.
Sure, but I suppose the beauty is particularly for the county footballers, they're really at the business end of the season now with their clubs, and that is immediately going to lead into the resumption of the National League and then the Championship. There was 2 dates for the Fermanagh game. I'd seen originally October 31st. Has that been pushed out till November 8th?
Yeah, it's November 8th because I think in the original draw, the Down Fermanagh game would have been one of the later quarterfinals. So they've kind of kept with that same structure for a schedule. So we will have our first 2 rounds of the leagues, and then we will wait until that first weekend in November for the game against Fermanagh. And we're still waiting to hear. I mean, at the moment, it stands that it's going to be in Enniskillen. There's no confirmation of any of these venues at the moment. And I suppose that's a natural thing because they're just trying to work their way through the various restrictions and as to whether these particular grounds have enough capacity or whether it's a better idea to move them to bigger grounds.
Of course, and it is a very fluid situation, and undoubtedly Croke Park and indeed the Ulster GA would like to see a further easing on the restrictions on numbers. Of course, that's been the health issue, of course, being the primary concern there. The minor championship, Jack, the inter-county. We originally were drawn against Donegal, but did the restage that to because of the whole COVID situation, and the minor championship now is just going to mirror the senior draw, although those games will not be played as part of a double bill. Have I got that right?
Yes, there's probably 2 reasons for why the minor championship was redrawn. The first is that the minor championship naturally has a backdoor system in it in normal circumstances, even within the province. And once lockdown came and lockdown moved on, and we were looking at the possibility of a more contained time frame for championship, they understood the fact that there couldn't be a backdoor in the championship. And they were looking at the possibility at that stage that maybe they might get away with double headers. So therefore, the draw was remade to mirror the senior championship. Now, as we move to the point of where we're at, double headers are out the window, so that's why the minor championship game will be taking place at an earlier stage. I think it's the 24th of October against Fermanagh. But yes, it is a different draw than was originally there.
Okay. Well, listen, you've a busy few months ahead of you. I'm not sure whether you had. I just want to touch briefly on Ballykindler. Just maybe give the viewers an update on that. I'm not sure whether you had seen last night, and it's a slightly related issue. Kevin McStay was on the game on RTE, and his comments were basically along the lines of a lot of counties may take the view this year that they just literally can't afford to take to the field and put the resources in place for what will be no more than 1 or 2 games. Now, no doubt every county is going to suffer financially this year. So maybe just give a brief comment on that, because it has affected everybody. And then just could you give us an update on where we are with Ballykindler and whether plans have changed there? And I suppose I have to declare an interest at this stage to keep everybody right. I, of course, am a member of the planning committee, so I'll not be giving you a view. I'll not be giving you my own view on the Ballykindler application. So I thought I'd better get that in to keep us all right.
Well, from financial point of view, it is a major challenge for every county, and likewise for ourselves, in that there will be a deficit. There will be a deficit for everyone. I think that the numbers that have been out there in relation to a lot of counties are probably fairly accurate at the moment. There has been some speculation that counties might be in a better position if they do not field teams in the inter-county league completion and the championship. I haven't heard that really much from counties at this particular point. I think it's still the intention that they do, but you have to cut your cloth. And you now have to tailor your expenditure for the remainder of this season, knowing that there's a limited budget, and we even have a situation at the moment where there'll be coaching staff within the county, and they're still furloughed at the moment. So we, as we move further down the road, we have to decide as to what we do in that regard in relation to our overall expenditure. But it is a headache, and it has been for some time. And now that we're facing a situation where revenue generation is going to be very, very limited, even from club championships, and that would have been a major source of revenue in the past. You are looking at a significant deficit heading into 2021, and that will have a knock-on impact, because you've got to then budget in a different way for next year than you would have in normal circumstances. But I still would anticipate that the teams will be out there playing in the inter-county leagues and championships, unless something happens from a public health point of view that is going to prevent all of that happening. In relation to Ballykinder, as you're probably aware, and most people are, that we had submitted our planning permission last December. We would have anticipated anyway that would have taken a lot of the time frame of 2020 to get through that process if we could. That there's obviously been a natural delay on top of that because of the COVID lockdown. But we are still working on it at the moment with all of the personnel on our side and with the planning system to make sure that we can conclude that process if we can within the next number of months or into the early stages of 2021. Planning there's a lot involved in the actual process. There's a lot of obstacles to overcome. That would be natural for a project such as this. We would still be confident that we can get to the other side of that. It remains our big ambition to make sure that it happens. Obviously, we have the added challenge in the fact that, our fundraising has had limited capacity in 2020 and may have even limited capacity going forward for a little while after that. So we will be sitting down quite soon as to try and map out the stages that there will be once we get past the planning process. It is the biggest single project that we've taken on within the county. It's not something that we're anticipating is going to happen in a hurry. It's going to take a number of years to develop that. And a lot of that is going to be dependent on our capacity to be able to fund that process along the way. But it's still there, and it's the one thing we can reassure ourselves about it, that we're still in exactly the same place in terms of our hope and ambition in relation to Ballykinder as we would have been at the start of this year.
Okay, Jack, it's good to hear that. And listen, we'll wrap up here. So let me say on behalf of Destination Newry TV, thank you ever so much for making yourself available today. And hopefully we'll get you on later in the season as the weeks and we count down till championship semi-finals and finals and so on. So thanks very much, Jack.
Thank you indeed, Jarlath.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
A big shout out to Destination Newry and all the people in the surrounding areas. Hope you're all keeping well. Stay at home and watch us instead.
Damien, you are a legend, and I want you to keep up the great work that you're doing at the moment for Destination Newry. And this destination is beautiful, and everybody should come to Newry because I love this place. See you soon.
Yeah, my side. No, it's what it